Ever wonder how companies like Google, Microsoft, or Uber create those slick, amazing digital products you use every day? Well, a huge piece of that puzzle is a tool called Figma. And today, we're going to walk through exactly how it helps you go from just a blank screen to a fully interactive prototype.
And that's a really good question, right? When you see all the heavy hitters in the industry landing on the exact same tool, you know something big is going on. It's a huge shift. You see, Figma didn't just create a slightly better design app. It went after some of the most annoying, long-standing problems in the entire product development world. Let's dig in.
So, what is it that really makes Figma so different from everything that came before? Well, it's all about a massive shift away from those old-school, isolated, offline programs into something that's totally alive, dynamic, and collaborative.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the revolution. Instead of making you install some huge piece of software that only works on certain computers, Figma just runs in your web browser. Now, that might sound simple, but the implications are massive. It completely changes the game for how teams can work together.
And all these advantages are totally connected. Because it's in a browser, it works on any computer, which means no one on the team gets left out. And that unlocks real-time collaboration. I'm talking literally watching your coworkers' cursors fly around the screen as you design together. The end result? You get a single source of truth. There's only one version of the design, the live one. You can finally say goodbye to files named homepage_final_v3_4view_absolutely final.sketch.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. When you open up a new Figma file for the first time, it actually looks pretty clean, pretty simple. So let's break down the three main areas of your new Creative Command Center.
Okay, think of it like this. Over on the far left, you've got your Layers panel. That's kind of like your file's table of contents. In the middle, you have this giant, infinite canvas. That's your playground. And then on the right, you've got the Properties panel, which is like the control panel for tweaking every little detail of whatever you've selected.
Now, before we go any further, we have to talk about a core concept: the difference between a frame and a group. Imagine you've got a bunch of photos just sitting on a table. If you group them, the border of that group is just, the outline of the pile. But a frame is like a literal picture frame. It has its own specific size, and you arrange the photos inside it. Trust me, getting this difference is absolutely key.
So you really want to start thinking in frames. An entire app screen? That's a frame. The little navigation bar at the top? Also a frame. And the button inside that navigation bar? Yep, you guessed it, it's also a frame. They are the fundamental building blocks that give all your designs real structure and power. Okay, so we've got the lay of the land. Now let's get into the stuff that feels like actual magic, the features that will totally change how fast and how smart you can design. And we're going to start with two of the biggest ideas in Figma: auto layout and components.
Auto layout is a total game changer. Seriously. Imagine you design a button that says submit. Cool. But then marketing comes along and says, hey, can you make that say sign up for our amazing newsletter? Ugh. Without auto layout, you'd be manually resizing the button, centering the text. It's a pain. With auto layout, the button just adapts. It automatically stretches to fit the new text perfectly. No fuss.
And the way it works is by giving every element a simple rule. Do you want it to hug its contents, like our button that wraps nice and snug around its text? Or do you want it to fill its container, like a search bar that needs to stretch to fill the whole screen? Or should it have a fixed size that never ever changes? Mastering just these three rules is the secret to building really complex, responsive designs that just work. All right, let's talk about reusable pieces, or what we call components. Back in the day, making something as simple as a button could turn into a total nightmare. You'd need a version for the default state, one for when you hover over it, one for when it's disabled, one with an icon, one without. It would explode into this massive library of hundreds of slightly different buttons. It was a mess to manage. Figma's solution to this is just beautiful. It's called component properties. So instead of making hundreds of separate versions, you just make one super smart component. Then you add simple controls to it right in the sidebar. Want to hide the icon? Flick a switch. Need to change the label on the button? Just type it in a text box. It's so incredibly efficient. And there are really only three main types you need to know. The text property, well, that lets you change text. The Boolean property is just a simple on and off switch for any part of your component. And the instant swap lets you pick from a list of other components to swap in. Perfect for, say, changing a search icon to a settings icon with just one click.
And the real-world benefits here are just huge. Your design systems get way smaller and easier to manage. When a new designer joins the team, they can onboard so much faster because the component itself tells them what they can and can't change. And maybe best of all, this way of thinking creates a shared language with developers because these properties look a lot like the props they use when they're actually building the components in code.
So you've built all these amazing smart components. That's awesome. But right now, they're just pretty pictures on a screen. So the next step is to breathe some life into them and connect everything together so it feels like a real clickable app.
And the whole process is just so intuitive. First, you just tell Figma, hey, this is the screen where the user starts. Then you literally click on a button and drag this little connection line, everybody calls it a noodle, over to the screen you want it to go to. And finally, you just pick how you want that new screen to appear. That's it.
You've got tons of options, from a simple instant switch to a nice dissolve or a push. But the real magic weapon here is called Smart Animate. If you have the same object on two different screens, but maybe on the second screen it's bigger or in a different spot, Smart Animate will automatically create this buttery smooth animation between the two. It's how you get those really high-fidelity prototypes that feel so polished and real.
Okay, now for what is often the most painful part of any project, the handoff from design to engineering. This is where things usually get lost in translation and everybody gets frustrated. But Figma actually built a special place just to make this handoff process almost frictionless.
And it's called Dev Mode. What this does is it basically transforms the whole interface into a special view just for developers. All the design tools disappear, and it only shows them what they need: exact measurements, color codes, font details, and even code suggestions. It lets them inspect every single pixel without any risk of accidentally messing up the design.
So the workflow for a developer couldn't be easier. They just flip on Dev Mode. They can click on anything, and that side panel instantly shows them every single value they need to build it in code. They can even copy ready-to-use snippets for CSS, iOS, or Android and just paste it right into their work. It just beautifully closes that final gap between what the designer intended and what the engineer builds.
So when you look at the whole picture, from a live canvas that lets everyone collaborate, to smart components that build themselves, all the way to a seamless handoff to developers, Figma really does support the entire product design process. It's so much more than a tool for making pretty pictures. It's a platform for taking ideas and making them real, faster, and better than ever before. So the only question left is, what are you going to create?